Well, hello third grade math students. I hope you are able to watch this before our live Zoom meeting because we're just going to be practicing what I'm talking about right now in our Zoom meeting. We're going to talk about the work that you're going to be doing today and also the work that you're going to be doing tomorrow. The next video will be for Thursday and Monday since this Friday is Good Friday. All right. So before we left each other, we had started talking about division. Now, if you remember, because we talked about it over and over and over again, division is the opposite of, that's right, multiplication. So if 15 divided by 5 is 3, then 3 times 5 is 15. They are the opposite of each other. So today we're going to talk about remainders. Now, all of the division and all of the multiplication that we've done so far has always come out even. The reason that it's always come out even is because you are memorizing your multiplication tables, and so we wanted to make sure that everything came out exactly the way that you were memorizing it. Well, now you're going to put those multiplication tables that you've memorized into practice by figuring out how many times something goes into a number and then how many are left over. So let's find out what a remainder is. A remainder is the number that is left over after dividing. I put an example down here. Remember, this is one of the ways that you can divide. I have 16 divided by 3. Now, 3 times 5 is not 16, but 3 times 5 is 15 with 1 left over. Okay, so 3 times 5 is 15. So you say to yourself, how many times can 3 go into 16 without going over? Okay, so 3 times 5 is 15. That's less than 16. But 3 times 6 is 18. That's too many. So we have to say 3 goes into 16 5 times with 1 left over. Okay, so I drew a group of 16 circles right here, and then I divided them into equal groups. Okay, so I'm seeing how many are going to be in each group if I have 3 groups. So in each group, there's 5 circles, but then there's 1 left over, and that is the remainder. Okay, let's look at some cups of crayons. I have 13 crayons right here, and I have 3 cups. I want to put an equal amount of crayons in each cup without anyone having more crayons in their cup. Okay, so I have 3 cups, and I'm going to start putting crayons in those cups. Okay, I have 1, 1, 1. Okay, we start over. 2, 2, 2. Start over. 3, 3, 3. Start over. 4, 4, 4. Okay, so I'm not done with the crayons, but I have 2 left over. And how many cups do I have? That's right, I have 3 cups. So can I put a crayon in each of the cups and still have the same amount of crayons in each cup? No. So that means that 13, I had 14, sorry. 14 divided by 3 is 4, remainder 2. Okay? 14 divided by 3 is 4, remainder 2. I have 2 left over after I put them into equal groups. Okay? So a remainder is what's left over after you divide it into equal groups. Okay, so in your book on page 399, I'm gonna give you a second. You can either pause this, or I'll give you a second to open your book to page 399. Okay, at the bottom of page 399, we're gonna look at the check section. Okay, it says use counters or draw a picture to find each quotient and remainder. What is a quotient? Do we remember what a quotient is? A quotient is the answer to a division problem. Okay, so remember, the dividend is the large number that you're dividing. The divisor is what you're dividing it by, and then the quotient is the answer. Okay, so you're gonna find out the answer and then what's left over. Let's look at number 1 together. Okay, 7 divided by 3. Okay, how many times does 3 go into 7? If I have 7 and I divide it into 3 groups, how many am I going to have? Well, let's think of our times tables. 3 times 1, 3. 3 times 2, 6. 3 times 3, 9. Okay, so 3 times 2 is 6. That's less than 7, but 3 times 3 is 9. That's more than 7. So I'm going to use 3 times 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, and how many do I have left over? That's right, 1. So the answer is going to be 2, remainder 1. I have 2 groups of 3 with a remainder of 1 left over. Okay, let's look at number 2. 11 divided by 4. Okay, well, in my times tables, I know that 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12. So if it's asking 11 divided by 4, 12 is too big, so I have to use the one before. So 4 times 2 is 8. And then how many do I have left over? 11 minus 8 is 3. So I have 2 groups of 4 with 3 left over as the remainder. Okay? All right. Number 3, 8 divided by 3. Okay, 8 divided by 3, 3 times 1, 3. 3 times 2, 6. 3 times 3, 9. Okay, so 9 is too big. So 8 divided by 2 would be 2 groups of 3 with how many left over? That's right, I hope, 2. Okay, so the answer would be 2, remainder 2. Okay, number 4, 16 divided by 5. We did the opposite over here. We did 16 divided by 3. So 16 divided by 5. Let's look at our 5 times tables. Now you can also do this by drawing groups and then circling them, or using counters, something like crayons or Legos or anything that you have that you can count. But we have 16 divided by 5. Let's think of our 5 times tables. 5 times 1, 5. 5 times 2, 10. 5 times 3, 15. Okay, 5 times 4 is 20. So 20 is too big. So we go to 5 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. And how many left over? 1. So we have 3 groups of 5 with 1 left over. Okay, so the remainder is whatever is left over after you've divided it into even groups. All right? Okay. I'm going to assign you some of these problems in your book. We do not have our workbook pages, but thankfully we do have the problems in our book. So you're going to be, just like at the beginning of the year before we got workbook pages, you're going to be writing on the top of your paper, on your lined notebook paper. If you want to use a notebook that has the spiral notebook, or a composition notebook that has lines just to keep everything, all of your math stuff in it, that's fine. Or you can use a clipboard with lined paper on it, or you can use lined paper and a binder. Whatever you can do to make sure that you keep everything together and it's the easiest to stay organized, but I'd like it to be lined. All right, so you're going to put your name and the date and the lesson and what I assign you. So I'll make sure that I tell you what to write down, but you're going to be doing some of the remainder problems. So that will be for Tuesday, or today if you're watching it today, Tuesday. Okay, so for Wednesday, we're going to turn to page 402 in your book. I want you to make sure that you're all turned to page 402. We're going to talk about division patterns, and particularly talking about 10, 11, and 12 today. Okay, so make sure you're on page 402 in your book. Okay, so for Tuesday, we talked about remainders. Now, if there is a remainder in a division problem, it could not go in evenly, okay? So 15 divided by 3 is 5. So that 15 is divisible by 5 without any remainders, okay? But 16 divided by 5 is 3, but there's a remainder 1. So 16 is not divisible by 5, okay? So what is that word that I keep using? The word is divisible, okay? If you look into your book on page 402, it says on the top under Learn, it says when you divide a number by 10, as an example, and the remainder is 0, that means there's nothing left over, you say that the number is divisible by 10. What that means is it goes in evenly. There's an even number of groups, okay? You can also say, instead of saying divisible by 10, because remember, division and multiplication are family, right? They're cousins. And if you can say it's divisible by 10, you can also say that a number is a multiple of 10. So let's look at an example in your book. You can also say that the number is a multiple of 10. So let's look at the big activity pattern. So does that pattern, does that look familiar? What is that? It's a multiplication table. See, I told you they come in handy. So we have a multiplication table here, and obviously that has something to do with division because they're related. Okay, so we look, what's the pattern? Okay, so look at the tens column. See, it's highlighted here. We have 0, because anything times 0 is 0. 10 times 0, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. So if we want to find out if a number is divisible by 10, let's look at letter A. It says copy the table. You don't have to do that right now. Find 70 divided by 10. Color the tens column blue. Okay, in my book, the tens column is already colored blue. Okay? Color the tens column blue. Circle 70. 70 is also circled. So let's look at the 70 is circled. Okay, so 10 times 7 is 70. Okay, so how many times does 10 go into 70? So 70 divided by 10 is 7. you can put 10 into 70 7 times. So is 70 divisible by 10? Yes, because 10 can go into 70 an even number of times, and that's 7 with nothing left over, with absolutely no remainder. Okay, so you can check that by doing the opposite. You can multiply. 7 times 10 equals 70. So if 7 times 10 equals 70, 70 divided by 10 equals 7, or 70 divided by 7 equals 10. Okay, remember our fact families? All right, so the 11's column, okay, I want you to circle in your book with your finger, okay, because we'll use these books again. Circle in your book with your finger 55, okay? So we're looking at the 11's column and we're finding 55, okay? Can you find 55? In the 11's column, 55, okay? So is 55 divisible by 11? Yes, it is, because it's in the 11's column, okay? So let's find out how many times can 11 go into 55, okay? So move your finger over here, and it's 5. So 55 is divisible, it can go in evenly, by 11, okay? And it goes in 5 times, okay? And we know our 11's multiplication table, so we know 5 times 11 is 55. Okay, let's do the same thing with a 12. Let's find, in the 12's column, let's find 96. Okay, 96 in the 12's column. Can you find it? Circle it with your finger. Okay, 96. So is 96 divisible by 12? Yes, because it's a multiple of 12. What times 12 equals 96? Let's find out. Oh, 8. 8 times 12 equals 96. So 96 is a multiple of 12. 96 is a, sorry, this is backwards. 96 is a multiple of 12, and 12 goes into 96 8 times, evenly, okay? So all we're looking at is basically the opposite of our other lesson with remainders, is if something is divisible by a number, that means it goes in evenly. Or if something is a multiple of a number, it goes in evenly, okay? If something has a remainder, it is not a multiple or divisible by that number, okay? Because it has a remainder. It does not go in evenly, okay? So we have patterns right here for 10, 11, and 12, but we can do the same thing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. Okay, but we started off with 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so we did some of those together, and I'm going to have you do some on your paper for Wednesday. And I'm also going to have you, do some of the check, and so you'll write that on the top of your paper, but I'll type out what you need to do. And I'm also going to have you do some of the mixed review, only so you get some practice of things that we've done in the past. Okay? All right. So if you're watching this at the beginning of our Zoom lesson, we are about to meet. And when we do meet, I will say hi, and then we'll do some of our multiplication practice. All right. I can't wait to see you. Bye.